You're listening to an Ono Media podcast.
Good morning, and thanks for joining me for Rise in Crime, your morning caffeine hit all about crime. I'm Mama Jules, and this Thursday's episode begins with a serial killer cult out of Ukraine, Georgia, and Russia. But first, I want to tell you about my research into this cult. As I was looking up information on the Maniac's murder cult, which the information is minimal, by the way, but as I was perusing the Googles, when I got to page 2 of the search, I ran across an article from just about 5 months ago. This article had step-by-step instructions on how to start a cult. Now, as I dug through the article, it's kind of a twisted tale of cult-like marketing, but it rings true to starting a nefarious cult. The behaviors are exactly the same, and it weirded me out a little bit. Their instructions include developing a cult message and picking an enemy to highlight in your messaging, then flooding the consumer or the follower with constant communication, and being different while targeting outliers and misfits. So you're looking for the people who don't belong. You follow all of that up with building a world where your misfits finally fit in. Then once you have lured them in, you give them targeted responsibilities. So are you creeped out too? I was, because these 7 steps are used not only in cults, but they're used in politics, in culture, in religion, and sadly, I noticed that they're used in one-on-one toxic relationships. And this neo-Nazi extremist group that I referred to, the Maniac's murder cult, well, it has all of those things, including a murder plot that engaged the followers. This cult is led by 20-year-old Mikhail Shavikvishvili from Georgia. Oh, guys, thank goodness I only have to say that last name once. Okay, Mikhail also goes by Michael or Commander Butcher or just the name Butcher. Those are such endearing terms. And this cult has multiple names as well. Of course, there's the Maniac's Murder Cult, but they also go by MKY and MMC. Now, the cult specifically targets Jewish communities, labeling the residents as undesirables. The ideology of the group is rooted in violence, and members are located in Ukraine, Russia, and the country of Georgia. Then there's also select members in the United States. But they have one goal: challenge the social order and establish governments via terrorism and violent acts that promote fear and chaos. Remember those 7 steps to building a cult? They hit on several in that explanation of the group. And here's another step that Commander Butcher implemented. He is known to encourage current and prospective members of MKY to commit acts of violence in behalf of the group. But it seems the Butcher might have gotten a little sloppy or greedy, or maybe both. Because since November, Commander Butcher has been communicating with a prospective member of the cult that just so happened to be an undercover FBI agent. Once the Butcher started communicating with the FBI agent, the Butcher revealed a plot that was designed to be a mass casualty event in New York City. The Butcher was so excited to have this new U.S. member to his cult, he immediately solicited him to dress up like Santa Claus and hand out candy laced with poison. But the cult member, who was supposed to be dressed up like Saint Nick, well, he was supposed to target children at Jewish schools in Brooklyn, as well as any other children of a racial minority. The Butcher's recruitment of the undercover agent included step-by-step instructions on how to carry out the plot. Those instructions were included in a manual that detailed how to create the poisons that would kill the children. In those instructions, the Butcher told the agent to purchase poison materials and chocolate candies anonymously via a delivery service or by paying with cash. Then he was to burn the Santa costume after using it, but not before he placed Santa socks or stockings with candies in random apartments. Now, he didn't want the new recruit to just use the Santa costume, though. That would have been only one attack, and the Butcher wanted more. The FBI agent was instructed to target Jewish adults and homeless people in New York City by making and placing bombs. He was also supposed to burn various buildings and spread poisons like ricin in specific locations. Now, once the FBI agent had his hands on the manual that outlined the mass murder plot, Investigators were able to link that information to Islamist jihadist groups that have affiliations in Iraq and Syria, as well as ties to ISIS. Now, the investigators also learned he had delivered other propaganda to cult members. In September of 2021, the butcher delivered a manifesto titled Hater's Handbook, which sounds like a name that a dangerous 17-year-old kid would come up with. I mean, what else would he call his manifesto? Well, in those documents, the butcher highlights how he is murdering for the white race, and he also promotes ethnic cleansing. They discovered that the butcher had been to America, specifically Brooklyn in New York. He stayed with his grandmother there in June of 2022. Now, during that time, and through online messaging to cult members, he bragged about harming an elderly Orthodox Jewish man that he was tasked with caring for during his little short employment at a rehabilitation facility in Brooklyn. Then, 1 month later, more online messaging revealed that he was using his example to encourage others to commit violent hate crimes in behalf of MKY, part of the 7 steps of building a cult. Well, the FBI did their work, and on July 6th, Interpol issued a criminal complaint against the butcher, and he was arrested. The butcher was indicted on charges of conspiracy to solicit violent felonies. He was also charged with distribution of information pertaining to the making and the use of an explosive device, and then transmission of threatening communications. U.S. Attorney Breon Peace said in a statement that the butcher's goal was to spread hatred and also fear and destruction through bombings, arson, and poisoning of children. The attorney promised that the U.S. Justice Department would not hesitate to find and prosecute those who threaten the safety and the freedoms of all members of our communities, no matter where in the world these criminals might be hiding. Now, if he is convicted, he faces a maximum penalty of 20 years of jail for solicitation of violent felonies, also 5 years for conspiring to solicit violence in felonies, and 20 years for distributing information pertaining to the making and use of explosive devices. And there's one more. He could get 5 years for transmitting threatening communications. Now, as of this point, he has no lawyer listed in the U.S. court system, so I'll just keep watching this one. These are the crimes we never hear about, but the ones that can also take an innocent bystander by surprise. All right, with this next story, I just want to say that I could bring a podcast that exclusively covers domestic violence. There are so many heartbreaking stories week after week, day after day, and all of them, they deserve recognition. But I'm bringing you this one out of Los Angeles because the weapon of choice wasn't fists or guns. Instead, the death occurred with a samurai sword. Now, the domestic dispute went down a week ago in San Dimas, California. And when deputies first arrived on the scene, what they were greeted with lived up to Hollywood lore. A woman was walking towards the police cruiser covered in blood and carrying a sword. She had knife wounds to her right leg and then to both hands. Obviously, this wasn't going to be a friendly greeting, so deputies ordered the woman to place the sword on the ground and raise her hands above her head. She willingly did so. The woman then told deputies to enter a nearby home. As they cautiously proceeded through the door to the home, they found a woman who had been fatally stabbed on the floor. Okay, that was expected, right? But they also found another woman who had not been stabbed, but she was suffering from an apparent heart attack. Now, EMS whisked the woman with the heart attack issue to the hospital, and investigators couldn't learn much from her for a couple of reasons. She was experiencing a medical emergency, but also there seemed to be a language barrier. The woman appears to only speak Chinese Mandarin. Her condition has stabilized in a local hospital, according to the Los Angeles Times. But it also seems an arrest has yet to be made in the case, despite having a bloodied woman holding a sword and a dead woman in the home. And the samurai sword-wielding woman who flagged down the police, well, she's in the hospital as well, and she is recovering from her wounds. She also only speaks Chinese Mandarin, and this is slowing the investigation. And I get it. If you're asking why haven't investigators found an interpreter, you guys, I don't have an answer. Lieutenant Daniel Viscara of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department told reporters that their preliminary investigation is suggesting that the three women have a family connection, but that the language barrier has made it not possible for them to confirm that information. However, he did say he brought in an interpreter, so I'm so confused with this case. I'll keep you updated if there is an arrest made in the case, but my gut is telling me that it's not going to happen. I'll let you know when I know. All right, let's continue the weird. Let's talk about the McCamey Manor. Okay, that name might be familiar to you. This is a home that's located in Summertown, Tennessee, and it was featured in a Hulu documentary titled Monster Inside: America's Most Extreme Haunted House. Well, back in October of 2023, the Tennessee Attorney General finally stepped in and placed the haunted attraction under a microscope when participants filed complaints about the attraction's business practices. Okay, the McCamey Manor, and I hope I'm saying that right. Well, the McCamey Manor, which is actually a single wide trailer, it touts itself as a way for attraction participants to live out their own personal horror movie. In the documentary, you can see the footage that is shot as three people who considered themselves friends of Chris Smith. Okay, he's an employee at the McCamey Manor. Well, these three participate in the haunted house, and that experience includes torture and deviancy. You can count me out on this one. But Melissa Everly, Gabby Hardiman, and Brandon Vance, they all signed up for the ordeal, and they agreed to have footage shot of their time spent in the haunted house. So why would you sign up for torture and deviancy? Well, Gabby and Melissa weren't shy about sharing the reason. They were hoping that this would be their foot in the door to establishing fame. Melissa said the following: "The normal routine gets dull. I'm not going to lie. I honestly thought this was going to get me a little bit of fame. I just wanted a video of me up on YouTube." And then Gabby, who was trying to fledge a career in Hollywood, well, she wanted to kickstart her own YouTube channel by filming the documentary. They also knew they were signing up for more than your typical haunted house. Participants have to go through an interview process of sorts. First, they submit a request through the website for McCamey Manor. Then, if that's accepted, the participant is invited to join a private Facebook group, and in that group, the participants are assigned tasks to video record themselves doing. They submit those videos, and then, if the participants clear that hurdle, they must sign a 40-page waiver before moving forward in the participation process. And one other quirky thing, they also must donate a 50-pound bag of dog food to the local animal shelter. So what kind of tasks do they have to video? Well, one task that Melissa was asked to film was that she was required to dangle from her ankles while eating night crawlers mixed with toothpaste and mustard. And Melissa was all in. She wanted to stand out from all the other applicants. Then the three, remember that's Melissa, Gabby, and Brandon, well, they were all accepted and they agreed to be filmed. As they signed the 40-page waiver, the three admitted they really didn't even read it. They were too excited to have made it this far and to actually get a chance to participate in what they considered a coveted experience. Well, now's as good a time as any to tell you that participants must wear an adult onesie while participating in the McCamey Manor. Weird, right? Now, during the experience, Brandon was locked in a cage as water flooded the cage. Soon he had no room to breathe, and then he was finally released from the life-threatening situation. And Gabby was chained up and then presented with a tarantula, which was allowed to crawl on her as she screamed. Gabby was also locked into a freezer for an extended amount of time. But one thing happened that the three didn't expect. They said Russ McCamey, okay, he's the owner of the haunted house, they say he was present during all of the film scenes. And Gabby said Russ seemed to get some sort of sadistic pleasure out of the whole process. For Russ, this wasn't his first go-round either with haunted houses. Before he opened McCamey Manor in Tennessee, Russ had a haunted attraction in California. Russ chose to leave the state and open up in Tennessee in 2017, following some tax issues in San Diego, California. That's at least according to Hulu. So Russ had rocked the boat with law enforcement in California, not just due to taxes, but also due to his outrageous stunts at his haunted house. And all of that didn't change in Tennessee. Just weeks after he arrived in Summertown, he hosted his first set of participants. Cops were called and they stormed the property. A witness, who had no idea what business Russ was running, well, that witness called dispatch after they saw a woman being drugged behind a car because the woman consensually signed the release and agreed to be drugged behind a car. Russ did make an agreement with the cops, though. He promised to alert them before his next set of participants arrived in Summertown. This would be so the cops wouldn't be rushing out to the property with guns drawn. And that might seem a little weird to me, you, anyone listening, but the cops are just okay with torture by consent happening at the property. And this is a quirky place. Summertown has the population of nearly 900 people, and it's very non-traditional. In the unincorporated community, there is a place called The Farm. Okay, The Farm is a commune that houses about 150 people, and it's been up and operating since the 1970s. And then just up the road is an elephant sanctuary where dozens of Asian and African elephants are housed following their retirements from zoos. So it kind of seems like McCamey Manor might fit in. But the manor quickly outstayed its welcome. A Facebook post about the desire of Summertown residents to have Russ leave the area, well, that post was filled with so many threats of violence that it was removed by Facebook moderators. Undeterred, Russ told the Nashville Scene that participants loved the experience. He bragged that they might be submerged in a tank of moray eels. He also said participants could experience whipping and taser guns. Now, the vast property has a 200-yard muddy trench that participants must crawl through. And in that trench, several caimans, which are basically alligator-type predators, but smaller, and they're fond of biting. Now, other experiences at the manor include having your fingers and toes snared in mouse traps, and then possibly having your hair and eyebrows shaved off. Participants sign off that they're willing to have their head wrapped in plastic wrap and that at times their hands and feet will be zip-tied. Well, in 2019, a Change.org petition was started by Frankie Towery. That petition asked that both the Tennessee and Alabama governments shut down the McCamey Manor. Okay, we've been talking about Tennessee, but why Alabama? Well, apparently the property has a secondary location that falls within Alabama state lines. Now, that petition has nearly 200,000 signatures. But Russ just brushed it off by saying that nobody has ever really been injured at the manor. He then laughed and said, someone had a heart attack once, but that's it. Now, it's hard to know if he was kidding. He then said that people will leave with bumps and bruises, sprains and cuts. But he reminds the reporter that people die at Disneyland too. Now, also in 2019, in an attempt to quell the outrage, Russ told USA Today that the physical torture was really no longer occurring. He said the haunted attraction was more of a mental game now, and that he is the primary employee creating the scares. He told USA Today that he instead was using hypnosis and mind control techniques. He admitted that if he can hypnotize someone, then he can control their thoughts. He then said, and this is a direct quote, that he doesn't need to rough anyone up. All right, he gave an example where he said he can put someone in a pool of 3 inches of water and tell them there's a great white shark in the pool with them. And if they're hypnotized, he can make them believe they are in the ocean swimming with the great white shark. All right, all of this uproar about the torture in the haunted house occurred several years ago, and the Attorney General began looking into it in October of last year following the documentary. Okay, what's up now? Well, Russ, the manor owner, has taken it too far. Russ was arrested last week after he allegedly strangled his girlfriend during a domestic altercation. She is physically all right. I'm not sure one recovers mentally after experiencing what she went through, but here's how it went down. His girlfriend reported the abuse on July 17th. She told deputies that she nearly lost consciousness in the attack. Russ was arrested and booked on domestic assault charges. He was detained until he submitted a $1,000 bond. Okay, and that was posted pretty quickly. But Russ was told to have no contact with the girlfriend that he allegedly assaulted. Well, 2 days later, deputies were informed that on the same day that Russ posted his bail, he left the jail and went straight to wherever his girlfriend was staying. While there, he allegedly raped and strangled the woman again to the point of nearly losing consciousness. When he was arrested last Friday, he was charged with second-degree murder and rape. His bond was increased to $100,000. Russ is due in court in about 2 weeks. And that investigation by the Attorney General? Well, Russ did respond to the Attorney General by filing a 32-page lawsuit against the Attorney General. In that lawsuit, Russ claims the Attorney General's request for information about his business violates his First, Fourth, Fifth, and 14th Amendment rights. He then states that those violations are part of a larger effort to prevent him from engaging in lawful conduct on his private property. And Russ is also suing Hulu over the airing of the documentary. Seems like Russ won't have any time to scare people with the 2 lawsuits, the investigation, and also the second-degree murder charge. I'll let you know how this one turns out. And I'm ending today's podcast with a crime story that has absolutely no winners. There's no hero. There's no reason for pride in a job well done. This story is truly empty. And I'm going to warn you, I'm really without words on this one, so I'll just present the story and I'll let you decide. It's also pretty violent, so trigger warning for that. On July 6th, Sonia Massey called police to report a potential intruder in her home. 2 deputies responded to Sonia's home. Now the scene is chaotic. Surfaces of the home and walkways are littered with items, and it's just stuff. It's not really dirty. There's just a lot of things in the way. Sonia is in night clothes and a robe. And body cam footage from one of the unnamed deputies, and then also from Deputy Sean Grayson, well, that footage shows the 2 LEOs speaking with Sonia outside her home. They then enter the home, and that is when the scene goes bad. I have a 3.5-minute video to share with you. Now, I'm bleeping the F words. I kind of wish I could leave them in because they give context, because I want you to realize that because the words are said in rage at first, then they're said in a, oh my goodness, what have I done tone. They actually change meanings partway through the video. Now, it's important to know that the reason for even dropping the expletive changes. So here, just give it a watch on YouTube or a listen on podcast, whichever way you're experiencing this episode.
Here, grab your ID for me.
Okay.
Your ID. One task at a time. So let's do an ID, and then you can dig around for your paperwork.
I don't know where my ID is.
You
Is that in that stack right there, maybe?
Okay. 1 second.
check on her.
Let me get this.
No, we don't need a fire while we're here.
Right. Okay. Let me see. Okay.
All right.
Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
I rebuke you in the name of
You better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the pot! Drop the pot! Drop the
19 shots fired.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Drop the pot! Bring EMS now. We got a headshot wound to the female. Headshot wound to the female. 1078.
I was on. I'm gonna go get my kit.
No, headshot. Yeah, she's done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot. Yeah, I'm not taking boiling water in the head. And look, it came right to our feet too. You good?
I'm good. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. What's her got? Let her just. God, there's nothing we can do, man. You good? Alright. I mean, you know, what else do we do? I'm not taking hot boiling water to the face, and it already reached us.
They got a 52 en route.
Yeah, 1078. But she's losing a lot of blood from the head. I'll go get my med kit.
Go get hurry, get your med kit.
I mean, there's not much we can do.
We can at least try and stop the blood.
So, is there anything you think we can do for her? No. Alright, I'm not even gonna waste my med stuff then. You wanna run down real quick?
Nope, not yet.
Alright. House is cleared. She was the only one.
Where's the gun?
No, she had a boiling water and came at me with boiling water.
You shot her?
Yeah. She said she was going to rebuke me in the name of Jesus and came out with boiling water. That's what all this is. I was standing right here.
All right.
And that's where he's landed.
What do y'all need from us?
Just nothing right now. Just hang out there for me. Thank you.
I need cranes included around the front of the house if you guys can. But other than that, that's I think it.
Anything else suspect?
Me.
I didn't know I had it.
Yeah, I'm good. It's crazy.
Now, as you heard, the deputies seem to go from kind of laughing or not being so serious about the boiling water to Sean Grayson, that's the deputy, becoming highly agitated. After Sonia rebukes Deputy Grayson in the name of Jesus, Grayson explodes and tells her she better not or he'll shoot her in the face. After commanding her to drop the pot, she says, "Okay, I'm sorry." Grayson is pointing the weapon at Sonia, so she kind of seems to cower and duck. Then she rises again, and that's when Grayson shoots her 3 times. One shot entered near her eye and exited out of her neck. She dies immediately. In the video, it seems like there's about 7 to 10 feet between the deputy and Sonia, maybe a little more. The angle's hard to tell because that footage is coming from the other deputy's body cam. But they are definitely not directly next to each other. If she was to hurl the boiling water at the deputy, for me, it seems he could probably dodge the action. Now, after the internal investigation, 30-year-old Sean Grayson has been charged with first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and official misconduct, and he has been fired. He pled not guilty to those charges. Now, understandably, Sonia's family is outraged. Sonia's father is demanding justice, and Sonia's 2 children, that's a 17-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl, well, they spoke about their mother at a press conference on Monday. And the father and the 2 kids, all 3 of them, are demanding that Congress enact policies that crack down on police misconduct. Sonia's son said he couldn't watch all of the police cam footage, sharing that it was just too painful. Grayson, the deputy, he does have an unusual employment history. He has bounced around several agencies, and he also has been arrested for 2 DUIs. He's being held without bond, and he could face up to 45 years to life for the first-degree murder charge. You guys, like I said, I really have no words on this one. I'll just let you decide. You guys let me know in the comments. But I want to point something out. Interestingly enough, Sonia's son, he also said the same thing. He told reporters he has no words for what his mother experienced. All right, that's your Thursday episode of Rise in Crime. I always say this, and I mean it truly from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for joining me on this podcast or on the YouTube broadcast. I love being part of your day. And if you're loving the content, I would love for you to share it with a friend. I also truly appreciate 5-star reviews and positive comments. You could also like and follow all of our social media and our YouTube accounts that we have here at Ono Media. I want to give a special shout out to my daughter, Peyton Moreland. Her Into the Dark YouTube account just reached 100,000 followers. Congratulations, baby. Sure do love you. All right, join me again on Monday for more morning crime news. I'm Mama Jules, and keep safe out there.